If there's one word that I am hearing over and over again, it is this word overwhelm. And I'm hearing it from clients. I'm hearing it from women in my network. I'm hearing it on in Facebook groups with moms. I hear a lot about overwhelm and struggling to find work-life balance. And I would even go as far to say that there's this work life home imbalance, right? Work is work, obviously. Life is spending time with those you love and wanting to make time for that, for play and creativity and community. And then there's home. There's the upkeep, the maintenance, the clutter, the desire to redecorate or renovate, right? The home is like this whole piece uh, that greatly contributes to this sense of overwhelm that so many people are facing, and I would say predominantly women. But I want you to know that your home can shift from just something you maintain to becoming a tool for lessening your overwhelm and finding more alignment in your day-to-day life. And so if you just look at work and life, is your work aligned with your lifestyle and your personal or family values? If you feel unsatisfied with work, then probably not. There's probably a misalignment there. And the same goes for your home. Is your home set up in a way that is supportive of your lifestyle? Or has it become a point of frustration? If you're listening to this episode, then that's probably true. But let's just go back to like work a little bit. Like me, I love my job. I could work, I love working on my business. I love creating. I love recording. I love all the things that I'm working on right now. And my career continues to evolve and expand into a path and purpose that feels completely aligned with my values and it works with my family structure, all of the things. But it wasn't always like that. My first career felt very fulfilling at first. And when it started to not feel so fulfilling, there was a restlessness. And it caused a lot of frustration and anxiety about how do I leave and pursue something else? But what I didn't recognize at the time was that those uncomfortable emotions were clues to the desire for change. There's almost like this restlessness inside that's causing your overwhelm. And that's at the root of your overwhelm because overwhelm is when we feel overwhelmed, when we feel emotionally detached. And I'm going to explain that a little bit more in a second. So, whether it's your career, like an example I just shared, or it's in your marriage or in a relationship, or your health is trying to get your attention, because we haven't been taught to acknowledge that restlessness inside as a hint or a clue that something wants to change or manifest through you, we end up falling victim to our controlling mind and we just agree with it that it's safer to stay, the way things are. And then we sort of stagnate. And that's when frustration and resentment and overwhelm starts to rear its ugly head. So, connecting with overwhelm, or I should say, so connecting your overwhelm to feelings of restlessness, right? We are a solution driven society and culture, and we want answers to our problems and we want them now. And that is probably why you're still overwhelmed with your life and frustrated by the fact that no matter what you try, you still feel overwhelmed and consumed by your own life. And it's because we fail to want to understand the root cause of our emotional detachment or our overwhelm. Okay. Solutions are great, but without understanding the root cause of something, we can't be fully equipped to actually make changes that we desire and hold them for the long term. You might have a short term, sense of relief, but that it's going to be short lived. The goal is to Sustain these changes and feelings for the long term because you can then see how you can use this knowledge and wisdom when life comes at you unexpectedly, which is going to happen. There's no getting away from that. So, at the very root of our overwhelm is our emotions and detachment from them. And for many generations, right, as a society, emotional expression has been discouraged, leading to furthering our detachment and suppression of emotions, right? We have replaced feelings or even noticing, really, our emotions with distractions like overscheduling and constant busyness, and then complaining that we don't have enough time. So, to help sort of bring this all together, I'm going to read just a short excerpt from the book, The Language of Emotions by Karla McLaren, whose work I've been really enjoying lately and diving very deeply into. I'm not going to read the full page, but just a few highlights that I think will help us understand how we've been conditioned for distraction. So, Karla says, many of us learn to press on in the face of trouble. We find a way to cope, not flourish, not soar, not enjoy and embrace, just flat out cope. I often say that our entire culture is having an out of body experience, but it's more correct to say that there's no one at the center of ourself to guide or comfort us. Therefore, we cling to any form of relief we can find. Avoidance, distraction, and addiction are absolutely commonplace in our culture because imbalance is absolutely commonplace in our psyches. Moving toward balance means moving away from distractions, addictions, and avoidance behaviors. However, that movement is unusual because distractions are absolutely everywhere. We distract ourselves on a daily and even hourly basis. We're all living in a kind of holding pattern. We fly over or under our issues as a matter of course. Note how many people use coffee not as a drink, but as a substitute for sleep and normal focus. Watch people drive. They're talking on phones, eating, or reading, but they're not focused on the road. Notice that television has become a staple in nearly every household and in nearly every child's daily life. Look at the massive amount of time we spend surfing the net, scrolling our phones, and filling our minds with trivia. We're all wired and distracted for most of our waking hours. We use distractions to manage our work, our relationships, our families, our health, our thought processes, and especially our emotions. We distract ourselves from our goals and dreams, from our loves and hopes, from our troubles and traumas, and from our deepest wishes and our truest selves. We distract ourselves from moving into wholeness, most likely because we haven't been taught that wholeness is even real or attainable. Moving away from distractions and addictions requires a great deal of support, but it also requires a deep understanding of why we distract ourselves so much of the time. It's helpful to move backward in time and ask, what happens right before we grind the coffee, or plunk down in front of the TV, or reach for the chocolate, the cigarette, or the alcoholic drink? What occurs in the moments before we start exercising, shopping, chanting, or painting obsessively? What triggers our movement toward distractions and avoidance behaviors? In every case, there's always an emotion trying to come into consciousness. Not a thought, not a vision, not a physical sensation, but an emotion. Even when we distract ourselves from physical pain, such as a headache or a sore muscle, it's not so much about the pain, but our feelings about the pain that hurl us into distraction. Even when we distract ourselves from disturbing visions or cycling thoughts, it's the emotions we have about those visions and thoughts that send us into avoidance behaviors. If we could move consciously into those emotions rather than into distractions, we would learn brilliant things about ourselves and our situations. The key to bringing ourselves out of avoidance distraction trances is to know what emotions are and which emotions we're avoiding and why. Therefore, disassociation and distraction function as a survival skill that offer a sense of distance when we're overwhelmed by stimuli. We'll dissociate in whatever way we can. We'll drop into distracting practices like surfing the internet or gaming, reading obsessively, watching excessive TV, or we'll enter into addictions and compulsions. All of these practices help us function in spite of our chaos. Each one brings a specific kind of relief, and each can relieve our distressing symptoms, but only for a while. So, we've culturally evolved into this state of distraction, but how are we contributing to our own state of overwhelm through distractions and dissociations? Because we have to start taking accountability for our own self and our own behaviors before we can see any sort of change. So now that we understand that as a culture, we've been conditioned to dissociate and distract. No, like, I don't want this to be a shaming thing for you. Like, oh gosh, I let it happen, right? You did, but you weren't really set up to succeed. Okay. You have been doing the best that you can with what you know and what you've been given. So let's just look at some modern day distractions that I think are like, you know, number one. The first one, I think we could all agree, is technology, smartphone addiction, right? Just to give you some present statistics, Americans are checking their phone on an average of 144 times a day. Average. There's more. Almost 60% of Americans admit to feeling addicted to their phones. That's more than half of the American population, and that's only the ones that have admitted to it. Okay? Um, the makers of these devices and apps have publicly stated that their own children are not allowed to use them because of how addictive they are. Excessive phone use is linked to increased anxiety, depression, and sleep disturbances. It is the decline of human to human communication. I mean, you see it in public places. You go to a restaurant, you are standing behind someone in the grocery line. Everyone has their their faces in their phone instead of looking up, being present with their environment and with those around them. So the takeaway here is to start asking yourself, how much am I on my phone? And for at least just begin noticing it, okay? You will certainly notice how much other people are on your phone, like your partner, your kids, right? And you'll start yapping at them and they will get annoyed with you. It's important to start with yourself first and set the example. Be the change, okay? Be the change you want to see in your household, especially if you're a mother, right? Like, you're the nucleus of the family. Everything extends beyond what you're doing, okay? Really get clear about your phone usage, your technology usage. If you're checking your phone 144 times a day, I am not surprised that you feel overwhelmed and like there's not enough time in your day to get everything done. Okay. Number two, social media and information overload sort of aligns with the technology use, but we are constantly exposed to curated online content, and that leads to feelings of inadequacy, that we're not doing enough, that we're not doing it pretty enough, right? We perceive others as getting more done than us, but please remember that on social media, you are probably just witnessing the end result. This was really prevalent when I was doing strictly interior design. Designers wanting to showcase their best work, and so their feeds were beautifully curated. And I remember how upsetting that was to me because I wasn't doing design work at that level. That was really difficult for me and challenged me. And it was a big reason why I struggled with even being on social media. But as a designer, people want to see it's all about the before and after. It's all about the transformation. It's all about getting from point A to point B. Now, there has been a lot of movement towards being more behind the scenes and, the demo process and material selection and how you got from A to B, right? But I can assure you even those images are still curated to some degree. And I think you can look at any industry and see these sorts of examples. Another thing, how often do you grab your phone to check something? Maybe you want to check the weather, excuse me, or reply to an earlier text or something, and you get sucked in right away into something else. You're immediately distracted by a social media notification or a news headline, whatever. The second you pick up your phone, you're distracted. And I have even said out loud so many times, like, What the hell did I just pick up my phone for? I was going to do something. I was going to look something up and I got distracted immediately. Okay. It's contributing to your sense of overwhelm. Other common distractions include activities like, again, with technology, mindless scrolling, binge watching on television, online shopping, even working excessively, right? All of this is to escape any sort of emotional discomfort. Most of the time, not even conscious. We're not even aware that that's what we're escaping, but I'm telling you, this is the root. This is what you're distracting yourself from. There's also sneaky distractions, right? Activities that seem to be good for us. Buying and reading books, seeking courses, or just internet browsing, searching for the answer, right? Looking for that solution. Those are distractions, right? You're ignoring the restlessness and the discomfort. You're ignoring finding the root cause as to why you even need the information in the first place. So, there are some strategies to help reconnect and manage the overwhelm. And we have to really start by getting honest with ourselves. Okay. And the way I like to do it is breaking it down through the lens of mind, body, and home. So, with mind, you have to set boundaries with the technology. Setting a boundary with your phone is probably the most precious self care activity that you can give yourself. You can designate tech free times or areas in your house to help reduce your dependency on your phone and the mental clutter that it ignites. Turning off all of your notifications, putting your phone or laptop in another room, like have 30 minutes of scroll time and then put it away and don't come back to it. If it's sitting on your couch or your coffee table or it's sitting on the kitchen counter, you're going to pick it up every time. Okay? And certainly keep them out of the bedroom. I've already said how it causes phones in general cause sleep disturbances. If you're feeling overwhelmed, you need to be rested, okay? And you need to be getting good rest and sleep. So if your phone is also your alarm. These are some excuses that might come up if your phone is your alarm or it's your only means of communication in case of an emergency. Put it right outside the door. Or, if you have an adjoining bathroom, put it in the bathroom, right? Just get it off your nightstand, okay? And, stop taking it in the bathroom. I mean, I'm telling you to put it in the bathroom at night. But how many people, like my son was doing this, he was taking it in the bathroom to go to the bathroom. Like, stop it. All right. So where else can you limit your phone, taking your phone with you, walking the dog, cooking dinner without it? Like just put it away. Okay. Another strategy for managing your overwhelm with mental awareness, emotional awareness, right? You need to encourage yourself to commit to self care practice. There's a lot of talk about journaling, meditation, right, to help you sort of recognize and process some of the mental clutter and emotions. But to be honest, that's going to fall on deaf ears for anyone who already feels overwhelmed or overstimulated. No one that is overstimulated is going to have the capacity to sit quietly in a meditation practice. With practice and time, yes, but if you're just starting, no. Journaling might be a little bit easier to sit down and put pen to paper to just clear out the mental chatter. But one of my favorite practices is conscious complaining. Okay. Um, Karla actually speaks about this in the same book. And I like to talk out loud to myself. And I actually have always done that as a kid. I would bitch and complain, like usually about my parents would piss me off or something. And I would talk out loud about it. But I didn't know it was like an actual thing, right? And kids are so intuitive, right? We do what innately we know that is good for us. And I was doing that and it works. So venting your frustrations allows you to move the emotional energy rather than letting them build up and up and up and up, because holding all of that resentment, like say you're just noticing your husband isn't like doing enough around the house and you've asked him to do things 20 times and you're sitting there washing dishes and you're like getting pissed off and you're not letting it out. That's building up inside your body, right? So just consciously complaining, find some time when you're alone to complain with intention. When you're folding the laundry, working in the garden, if you feel comfortable being outside and talking to yourself out loud, whatever, find some time to vent out loud. So let's move to the body. Of course, physical activity, that always reduces stress and improves your mood. So get outside and move. Just take a walk without your phone or music or a podcast. And you will get distracted even doing those things, okay? Just be present with yourself and your thoughts, right? Start giving yourself some space to notice the conversation that's replaying in your head. What keeps playing over and over again, right? Have a somatic routine. One of my favorite exercises, and I learned this from my dear friend Anita at Power of Touch Wellness in Pittsburgh. She teaches so many great self-care techniques that can be done at home with tools that you have laying around your house. And one of the ones that I love is just getting up a few times during the day, especially if you work at home or you sit at the computer or stand at the computer a lot. You just want to start bouncing. If you're watching this video on YouTube, I'm bouncing in front of the camera and it's just like sort of again, like how a child just like has no weight to their arms and they're just swinging them around and just moving the energy, right? And you can do that with your shoulders, just letting them kind of like slam down, throwing them side to side and sort of tapping your back and your heart space. Um, Movement in general is so, so amazing, right? Adequate rest, we already talked about it, right? Quality sleep and its role in regulating the nervous system and our emotions is probably one of the best things. Aside from monitoring your cell phone use, sleep and drinking water, top three. For the home, I said it in the beginning, I'm going to repeat it again. Your home isn't just something to maintain, okay? But for a lot of people, it feels that way. It feels like a chore. It's another thing on your list that you just can't quite always get to, right? But it can become a tool for alignment and well-being. So, creating a calm environment. Don't make this a big project, okay? Excuse me. Take one small action. Where can you declutter just a little bit? Can you start with the pantry? Can you start with the junk drawer? Whatever. Declutter just a little bit and incorporate some decorative elements and objects that promote relaxation, right? And rest and just like full system restore. Okay. Can you add some plants? Can you add some soothing colors or colors that you like, right? Can you add candles or incense or essential oils? Diffusing oils is a wonderful way to just walk into a space and scent just hits you and immediately your body relaxes. Clarity cleaning is a way to mentally detox as you clean your home. This is similar to conscious complaining. It's complaining with intention, it's cleaning with intention, okay? You're cleaning with the intention of moving energy and you're accomplishing so much, right? As you're cleaning your home, you're also clearing out mental clutter and you're making space for intuitive insight. Clarity cleaning is such a game changer for mind, body, home alignment and managing your overwhelm. Designating personal spaces. Where can you set up areas in your home to help promote more rest, rejuvenation, creativity? Can you make space for hobbies and things in general that bring you joy? And start directing your energy to those things rather than focusing on the chores and the maintenance of your home. Redirect your thoughts about the things you love about your home, even if it's just like a place to read a book, okay? Do you have a small table to set your coffee or your tea or your water? Have a cozy blanket nearby, right? Again, have some candles, light a candle, diffuse your oils. Create these, I call them sacred spaces little pockets of sacred space in your home. Make it so enticing that you want to spend time there. Like you can't wait to get in there and just be in there. Your body and your mind will start craving being in that space. If you're craving creativity, where can you set up a small table to craft or just be messy, right? If mess causes you stress, which I can totally appreciate, I've talked about this a lot on the podcast before, how my daughter is very creatively messy, and I have come so far in appreciating her creative mess, and it does not bother me the way in which it used to. I don't feel overwhelmed by it because I've implemented strategies and practices to not let it overwhelm me. So if mess gets to you and it causes you stress, arrange it in a way that is more organized, or set it up in a corner of the room or a room individually where you can just close the door and not see it when you walk by. Being intentional. This actually came up this week with a client during her coaching session. She was excited, like, love all these suggestions, and I'm excited to implement, but like, I don't even have time to fit in the implementation. And that's a very valid question and response, especially when you're feeling overwhelmed. These practices, these tools are not about adding to the list of things to do, okay? The first thing you need to do is remove things, right? Taking things away that don't bring you joy, taking them off the calendar, decluttering your life, getting really clear on where your energy is draining you. And sometimes that's hard, especially if you're a caretaker or a parent. I get it. A lot of parents, they have kids in after school sports and activities, and, but are they in too many? Right? Uh, because, and if they are, they're probably just as burnt out as you are, to be honest. And if they're not, I think it's important to ask, why it's important to them to be in all these activities and sports. Like, are they too concerned about what other people think? Are they having some sort of FOMO? Because none of that is healthy. Does their response align with your family values? So it's about questioning what's not in alignment and the direction that you have for your life and where you want it to go. And remember, until you regain control of your mind, it will argue with you, right? It will argue that, no, you need to continue on doing the way you have been, or fill in the blank. They'll be mad at you. Everything's going to fall apart if you're not there. We can't afford for me to cut back on work, right? But that restlessness is calling to you, and your mind will fight it. You just have to fight back. So the first thing is to evaluate your energy drains and replace them with things that bring you joy and presence. When you fill your life with pockets of presence, you don't feel like your life is rushing by. Being present with loved ones or with activities that bring you joy, time slows down. If you need more tactical solutions, I have those too. I know there's some of you out there like, I still need solutions, and I'm here to give them to you, but I really want you to take in the emotional piece and start asking the deeper questions. But some tactical solutions, sit down each week with your calendar and really distinguish between urgent and important tasks. Set a timer for 30 minutes each week. Make it a Sunday ritual. Instead of scrolling on social media while you're sipping your coffee or the news, replace it with an intention setting practice for the week or for the month or for the next 3 months, whatever you like to plan out. What needs done? What can wait? Check the list midweek or mid-month and reevaluate, but get it all out. Get it all out of your mind and on paper, in a planner, on a journal, on a piece of software, whatever, to help you just organize your thoughts and just get the list out of your head and set up a to-do pile and a done pile. And, I love checking it off, striking it through, whatever. I love crossing things off my list. It gives me something to celebrate, um, and acknowledge, like, hey, I got a lot done in a week or in a month or whatever. The other tactical solution is to practice saying no. I've implemented a if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no practice. I don't know the origin of that. I just remember hearing it and I said, I like that. So I use this for everything. It brings you to an immediate state of presence when you say this, which is great for anyone, especially that struggles with decision making, which, by the way, is just a lack of self trust. But my whole family follows this practice now. We use it to evaluate friendships, um, activities, even purchases. Like, I got tired of my kids. I would take them out shopping for clothes, and they would just buy things, like, just without really discerning if they really liked it or not, you know? And so now, if it's a hard no, then it's not a hell yes. And when I remind them of that, like, is it a hell yes? You know, when they're trying things on, most of the time they're like, nah, I really don't like it that much. And I mean, how powerful is that if we used this practice in other areas of our life that are draining us? We begin to create a hell yes life. I mean, doesn't that sound amazing? Lastly, mindful scheduling. If you like having a calendar or a planner or a checklist to plan all of your events and social life, work life, all of it, make sure you're allocating time for rest, family time, and self-care. This helps balance out the overwhelm of to-do. This prioritizes rest, self-care, rejuvenation. The drama and the needs of others, that's always going to be there, waiting in the wings for you to give it your attention. It's never going to go away. And that's okay because that's life and we expect that. But that's exactly why it's so important for us to tend to our needs first so that we have the capacity to tend to those situations that arise unexpectedly and manage them from a more level-headed, balanced state of being. So, overwhelm, in my opinion, is the greatest pandemic that isn't getting the recognition it deserves. Because I'm hearing it all the time. And honestly, I've even caught myself thinking, I must, maybe I'm an undiagnosed ADHD. I mean, maybe, but maybe you've just been pulled into distraction culture. The constant stimulation, the endless scrolling, the overscheduling, it's all designed to keep us detached from ourselves. And the way out isn't about doing more. It's about turning inward, getting clear on your values, and making intentional shifts. It starts with small, consistent actions that add up in such powerful ways. And I know you want to move from overwhelm to peace. And I can tell you from my own experience, it's absolutely possible. But it requires conscious choices about how you spend your time, what you say yes to, and most importantly, what you create space for. So if you're feeling the weight of overwhelm and you do need some help creating a more calm, supportive environment for yourself or for your family, intuitive interiors might be the next step for you here. And if you want to go even deeper beyond just your space to explore patterns of dissociation, distraction, become more aligned emotionally, my mind, body, home alignment coaching could also be a good fit. You don't have to have it all figured out, and you don't have to have it all figured out alone. If today's episode resonated with you, I do invite you to take one intentional step, whether that's implementing a small shift from the conversation today or exploring one of my offerings. You can learn about both at jadescottdesign.com. Link is in the show notes. And if this episode spoke to you, please share it with someone else who you know that might need to hear it too. Because sometimes one shift, one insight, that can make really all the difference. Thank you for being here. Until next time, I'm sending you so much love and gratitude.